Hello, and welcome to this next episode of the King Lincoln Show. You might remember in the last episode, I talked about my deconversion from Christianity, how I became an atheist, and how I tried lots of Christian related things to help me with my anxiety and paranoia and other mental problems, but nothing helped, nothing worked. And how I eventually managed to let go of my fear of hell that was kind of underpinning my attachment to the religion, and how I realized that none of the religion, the Christianity, none of it makes any sense. And I eventually became an atheist, and I dissected all the arguments to do with Christianity and figured out why none of them make any sense. And I started getting interested in more and more interested in yoga and meditation and mindfulness, and that stuff actually started helping me and starting to make me a bit better. And I decided to go and study yoga and meditation at like a full-on proper yoga center, and that's kind of where we left off. So that's what I want to talk to you about today. I want to keep telling you the story of my kind of fucked up, shitty life. And yeah, this next chapter is about how I went to this yoga center and whatnot. And yeah, we'll continue with my adventures from there. So yeah, after kind of realizing, I guess, like how much this yoga and meditation stuff seemed to be helping me, and now unhindered by the unhelpful religion that I was brought up with, all this stupid Christianity stuff. I found out about this this full on like yoga center where you go and you stay for a while and they teach you all this yoga and meditation stuff, and it's like a full on course, and then you go home and you do like home study and home practice, and then every like 6 months or so you go back, or 6 months or 3 months, I forget. You go back and you do like the next installment of the course, and then you come out as like a kind of like a fully qualified like yoga and meditation teacher of sorts. So I wanted to go and do that. So it was in a different place to where I live. So this was my first time like kind of leaving my home city again after my traumatic trip overseas that went like so bad. So it did feel kind of like a bit of a big deal getting on a plane and everything again. But I went to this place, I flew to this place, and I was only supposed to be there for like 2 weeks or 10 days or something. Um, but yeah, it didn't quite work out that way. But we'll get to that. So so I had to take a plane there, and then from the plane there was a bus that picked me up, and it picked like one or two other people up that were also going there. And this place was in the countryside, so it's like a long like bus ride. It's kind of a small bus, kind of like a van really. And kind of like drove us like way through the countryside, kind of up into not quite mountains, but up into the wilderness a bit, to get to this place. And so I get there, and yeah, it's just this like yoga center, yoga ashram type place. And people go there to learn and stuff, but some people actually live there, and they're like fully into like yoga and meditation and the whole philosophy of it. Like this particular school of yoga, it's not just about like doing yoga poses and getting really flexible. It's about like all the philosophies and stuff behind like yoga and meditation from India and stuff. And you learn all the different theories and different like philosophies behind it and all that. So yeah, I went to this place and I was doing this yoga course, learning all about like yoga and meditation and stuff. Um, I was in an odd place psychologically because by this time I was definitely not as bad mentally, like with the anxiety and all that shit, as when I was overseas and when I was at my worst. I was definitely not there, but I was definitely not 100% better either. I had improved, but like definitely not totally. And I said, like, when I was signing up for the course and stuff, they have like one of the questions is like, do you have any like mental issues and stuff? I did say that I had suffered from anxiety. I can't remember exactly how I phrased it, but I did say that I had suffered from anxiety, but I was better now. I think maybe I even believed that, but that was a big exaggeration. I still had like lots of intrusive thoughts. I still felt like not totally in control of myself. Like I would do things and say things without having a sense of control of it. And I still had heaps and heaps of just like mental noise that was kind of fucking me up and making me feel anxious and weird and making me feel like not totally in my body and not totally like in control of myself. I was still in a pretty weird mental space and everything still felt kind of like blurry and unclear and like I was still all mentally foggy and kind of fucked up. But even though that sounds pretty bad and it still was like quite bad, it was not to the level, it was nowhere near the level of when I was overseas and I was actually like 100% freaking out. So anyway, I was at this place and it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool in some ways. Like it's up in nature, surrounded kind of by like not full on mountains, but kind of mountains that are kind of all green. It's like all greenery and nature all around. And it's just all these like kind of mainly like small buildings that are all kind of quaint looking, all kind of like yogic looking. And yeah, it's out in nature. It's like quite a peaceful setting and all that kind of stuff. Um and yeah, so I was only supposed to be there for about 2 weeks, but I realized while I was there that if you're taking the course, like some people actually live in this yoga center as like a yoga ashram. Like there's people that live there for full time. There's people that stay there for like months at a time as like a retreat or whatever. Um, and I figured out that if you're doing the course, you can actually stay there uh like for free, but you just need to participate in all the activities and do a bit of like work each day and stuff like that, but you can basically just live there. And in my fucked up mind, you might remember I told you before about how when I was overseas I had this weird, like it wasn't a fully conscious thing, it was kind of on a subconscious level. I was always trying to find ways to stay and extend my trip and not have to go home to the toxic household that I, used to live at and be a part of like in my childhood and all that. And even though I was a fully grown adult and I could theoretically, I could move out, I could make all my own decisions, I could make my own money, like deep in my mind that fear was still there, and even though it didn't make sense, I would do weird things to like try to run away from that, from getting stuck there again, like back in my home with my parents and all that. So even though I was only supposed to be there for like 10 days or something, I decided I was going to stay there and I was just going to live there for 2 fucking years, which was the whole duration of this like long yoga course. I just like made this like a snap decision, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna stay here, I'm gonna live here. Um, and they took me on, like they they just let me do it. I'm like, all right, I live here now. But what I had to do was I had to hide my anxiety. So I got really good at this, and basically the way I did it, the main way I tried to do it was just by doing as little as possible. Like I would talk as little as possible. I'd interact with people as little as possible. I would like give away as little about myself as possible. I just did my utmost just to like not raise suspicion about myself, basically. And I was just like doing everything in my power to just keep it together and just like keep myself under control and like not do anything noticeably crazy or weird so I could live there, so I could stay there, and so I wouldn't have to go home. And yeah, I know it doesn't 100% make sense. Like, you can just have a job and move to your own place and you're an adult and all that. But I wasn't really thinking straight. I wasn't thinking logically. And also, all that stuff like holding down a job, paying rent, organizing myself, and like living on my own or with housemates or whatever, all that stuff that is just basic stuff for most people, that was still really, really hard and challenging for me. And I felt like maybe I would get stuck back at home again. And it wasn't a fully logical thought process, but this was like my way out in my kind of fucked up mind. So it was a pretty cool place, and it was really cool like doing yoga and meditation all the time. But I have to admit I was kind of disappointed with the place at the same time, and there was some things about it that were very silly and stupid as well. Um I thought that if people dedicated themselves to like living out in the countryside, in the kind of wilderness, just with this small little community of little wooden buildings and stuff, like out in the middle of nowhere, dedicating themselves to like yoga and spiritual practice and meditation or whatever, that they would actually have a different lifestyle to most people, and they would be in their rooms meditating and practicing for like hours each day and just doing, the minimum things they really needed to do to run the ashram and run their lives. But the weird thing was, even though all those people were out there, like living in that place, in large part, they lived kind of a normal lifestyle. Like, they would just like think of random things to do. Everyone had kind of like jobs, but some of the jobs were stupid. Like, I was just thinking we could just not do this and we could go meditate instead of doing this, like, kind of, a lot of it was like thinking of tasks to do, like random little gardening tasks, or they put on like little performances and things all the time, and like just kind of made work for themselves and kind of busied themselves. And everyone had, different people had different jobs. Like, people did administrative tasks or worked in the kitchen or worked on the grounds. But some of the work was kind of bogus, and it's like, I don't get why they come out here to the countryside with nothing around and no distractions. They say they're really into yoga and meditation, but then instead of even like spending more time really than a normal person practicing meditation, they just make up random tasks for themselves until they're the same busyness level as a regular person. So they're just reconstructing a regular modern lifestyle out here in the countryside. So what is the point of any of it? It just seems stupid. And it was, like, it is totally stupid. And it's like saying you want to be really into yoga and meditation and spiritual practice, but then you don't really when it comes down to it. You want to construct a fiction of yourself doing it, but you're not really doing it. So that was a bit disappointing because I thought I was going to get to meditate heaps and heaps and all this. And I did get to meditate and practice a lot, but not as much as I wanted, not as much as I hoped. So it was kind of a silly place. And there were some kind of silly people. The kind of people that get attracted to that kind of place, it's kind of a little bit cult-like. Like, it's not a full-on cult. Like, you can leave whenever you want, and then, they're not gonna make you, like, drink poisonous Kool-Aid or anything. But it was kind of cult-ish, at least. And the kind of people that get attracted to it are kind of, I hesitate to say it, there were some normal people as well, but a lot of them are kind of the dregs of society, like me. That's what I was like. I had no place to go. Like, I had no good place to go. I had nothing going on. It wasn't like I was leaving some amazing family and career and bunch of opportunities to go there. Like, yeah, a lot of people with nowhere else to go or nothing better going on would be the kind of people who would go there and who would stay there. And we tried to kind of say that we were like awesome people and stuff, but we weren't really. A lot of us were like, yeah, kind of no hopers that just kind of ended up there. And there were even like families and stuff that would move in there really because they'd gone broke. Like, they lost their house and stuff and they literally had nowhere to go. And they would get taken in because the ashram like needed people. It needed like workers and participants and stuff, so people would just get taken in. And I think it was kind of shrinking and stuff like in those days when I was there. So the whole thing did seem like kind of scammy to me right from the get-go. And I was kind of being deceptive in my way of staying there because I was pretending that I was staying there because I was so sincere about yoga and I really wanted to practice and improve and like be part of the community and stuff. But I didn't really. It was just like a sneaky way to have a place to stay. It was a sneaky way to have like a free place to stay and all that. And I was just kind of like going along with a lot of it so that I'd be able to stay there. And it was like, I never admitted that to anyone because that would sound bad. So I was being deceptive. And I was also hiding my true kind of fucked up mental state. And a lot of the time people would see how like quiet and withdrawn I was and stuff and how I like wouldn't talk and stuff. And they would think it was because I was like being really spiritual or something. Or I was like being really contemplative and meditative when really I was just thinking I better not do anything weird so no one realizes that I'm all fucked up mentally. That's what I was really thinking. And that's why I really wasn't like talking and interacting and stuff. It was a really great place for me because they had things like you can like elect at certain times to be in silence. So you can put a little badge on and it means that you don't want to talk to anyone. You're like in silence and it's like it's for you to watch your mind and like, be contemplative. But you can also do it to fake that you don't have horrible anxiety and then that you're not fucked in the head. So that was really great for me. Like, there were a lot of useful things that I could use to trick my way into seeming normal. But yeah, it did seem kind of scammy because that yoga school and tradition was actually started by these Indian guys, and they had ashrams in India. And instead of focusing on like uh hatha yoga or hatha yoga, which is like, physical yoga poses and practice, or like different kinds of yoga. There's like more like gyan yoga, which is um like meditation and stuff, or like Raj yoga, which is like, yeah, like more meditation. There's all different kinds of yoga within like the whole kind of yoga philosophy thing. They focused on what's called karma yoga and something called like seva. I think it's called like seva or seva. And it's kind of like working mindfully and doing selfless service and doing stuff like and being in the moment and not like being concerned about like getting something from what you're doing kind of thing. But the way they did it was basically like as a justification to get free labor from people. So they had all these I don't know how many they had, but they had a few ashrams in India where they would get all like the local kids would come and get like a meal and stuff. But then they do all this work for the ashram. Like they do all the work in the ashram and they prepare these elaborate ceremonies and stuff. And then like Westerners and stuff would come to the ashram, but then they'd get these like lectures on like karma yoga and stuff, basically being like, oh yeah, you've got to work with no regard for the fruits of your actions and stuff. And now, here are your tasks that you've got to do in the ashram. And it's just a trick to get people to work for free. Like, do you think it's a coincidence that they chose that form of yoga, which is basically doing free work? Like, do you think it's a coincidence that they chose that one to focus on? And that's not even what it really means. Like, it really means like mindfulness or like presence. It really means being in the now. It doesn't mean doing free work for other people. But that's how they kind of tried to spin it. And it was a total scam. And even when I first got there, like so I wasn't in India, I was in Australia, but they talked about all this like karma yoga and seva stuff. And we would learn our proper like yoga practices and everything, even when I was doing the course and the other students were there, people that weren't living there. But then we have to do like cleaning and stuff, or like working in the kitchen or cleaning or gardening. And they were like, yeah, this is karma yoga. And I was like, yeah, we're paying to be here. Cause like I didn't have to pay to live there, but I paid for the course. And I was like, do you think this is kind of a scam? Like, we paid to be here, now we're working. We're doing fucking cleaning. And the other students, like, some people were already really into this, like, tradition and this yoga school. Like, they were already kind of brainwashed. And they were like, give me funny looks, like I wasn't supposed to say that. And I started to twig to be like, oh, there's already some, like, brainwashed people. Like, I can't just like speak my mind about this stuff. So that was pretty weird. And there were more instances of that. Like I remember some people were reading in the library, looking at this book with the different like gurus from this yoga tradition, and they were like saying how amazing they were and everything. And I was just basically like calling it how I saw it. I was like, they just look like a bunch of like fat Indian dudes to me. Like, look how fucking fat this guy is. And how do you know they did all this stuff altruistically? Like, they started this whole tradition and they got all this like free stuff done for them. And like, they got to all these like people doting on them and stuff. How do you know they did it all for a good cause? They're just sitting around being fat. And like they gave me dirty looks and I was like, oh, okay. I can see they're already kind of like brainwashed. I can't say all this shit. So I started like, that was part of my keeping silent, was like, okay, I can't say all this shit how I really see it. I can't let them know that I think this whole tradition thing is kind of like bullshit. So yeah, there were certain ways that I was disappointed with the place. Um, and there was some other things that they focused on that I thought were just so fucking dumb. They used to always do these things called hovens. I think that's how you pronounce it. And it's basically like you have this gay little like fire pit and you make a fire and you throw like little sticks and like pour oil into this fire and put these like fragrant herbs and stuff. And you have this whole little setup with like flowers and stuff. And you do this chant while you're doing it. And like everyone sits around and chants and joins in with the chant, like however the fuck it goes. And I don't know what the fuck it's supposed to achieve. Some kind of spiritual woo woo crap, some kind of fucking cleansing thing or something. But I guarantee you 100% does nothing. It's just you sitting with a fucking campfire doing a gay little chant. And they used to do these like multiple times a week. And it takes so much preparation. Like you got to set the whole thing up. You got to go and find like all the right kind of sticks for it and stuff. And I was just like, why are we fucking doing this shit? Like, of all the things to focus on in yoga, like you chose the shittest one. Why not actually do some meditation? Like, do some fucking yoga poses, do breathing practices, do meditation. Compare that to doing 100 fucking hovens over and over again. Who's gonna be better off? Who's gonna make progress with their body and their mind and their, outlook and everything? Not the fucking hoven person, I can guarantee you. But yeah, so they did that. They were really into that, and I just hated that so much. And they did another thing called kirtan. And kirtan is basically you have this stupid little I forget what it's called, but it's kind of like a cross between a tiny piano and an accordion. And you just play this gay little thing. Sounds horrible. And you do like Indian songs. Like you basically sing like Indian kind of chanty yoga songs that are about stuff that we Westerners have no idea about, like Krishna and Shiva and you know I don't know, Govinda and all these like gods and like Hindu type stuff. You're singing songs about it in that language, like whatever language it is, like Sanskrit or whatever. And you don't really know what you're singing about most of the time. And everyone gets really into it. And sometimes they would do it just with that stupid instrument, like just out on the grass or something. But sometimes we go into this kind of like hall, not a huge hall, but like this kind of carpeted hall kind of room where we'd also do yoga classes and stuff. And they have all other instruments too, they have little cymbals and triangles and guitars and stuff. And there'd be a bunch of people up the front, like all singing, the best singing people. And everyone would like sit there and it'd be this whole evening service of all these stupid songs. Everyone's like clapping and singing and like carrying on. And to me, I was like, this is the exact opposite of what I want to be doing. Like they'd get really loud and into it, and it was like seemed like a tribal like kind of performance thing, like like getting really like into it and stuff. I'm like, Jesus Christ, like what I want to be doing is not fucking singing these gay songs really loud and going all crazy with this whole bunch of people. I want to be doing the exact opposite, sitting alone in my room meditating. Like that's what I came here to do, but I don't know how these people like started a yoga center and then fucked it up so bad by just focusing on all the crappiest things you can possibly think of that have to do with yoga in any kind of vague way, but that's what they managed to do. So yeah. And so like I mentioned, it was like a tradition with like gurus and stuff. And they actually like would worship the gurus. And they had something called Guru Puja, which basically means like guru worship. And the people who were residents, like you called a resident when you lived there, they were expected to actually go and like, I don't think it was that often, probably like once a month or something. They go and do Guru Puja, and it was like this special service where they'd like sing songs and stuff and actually worship this person, like the guru guy who started this particular tradition. And I would just blatantly not go. And there was this guy who was supposed to be kind of my mentor, but he was an idiot. He was really nice, but he was a bit of an idiot. And he was like, "Oh, how come you don't come?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just really not into like guru stuff. Like, I don't want to worship a person. Like, it's just not my thing." And he was like, he basically said, "Oh, fair enough. Like, you don't have to come." But he was like, "Man, I thought we would have scared you off by now if you're not into that kind of thing." And I was like, "Nah, nah, I don't scare easily." And it was like, "Oh, wow, okay." I think that kind of I think he respected that in a certain way. But the real the real truth was my lie that I was living the whole time I was there, which was I don't care about the majority of this stuff. This is just this awesome free place for me to live and get away from my fucking toxic place I used to live. So that was the real truth, but I never actually said it. And I kind of even though I was living there, I kind of rejected a lot of their stupid stuff. And there was even like this tiered system of how deep you're into this tradition shit, and people would get I forget what they called it, but it's kind of like being ordained. So there's a first level where you wear white, and a lot of people, like the other residents and like students who decided to stay there, they'd always wear white every day, and they'd wear these kind of like gay Indian style clothes. And I did it for like a really short time, but then I just reverted to going around in like a black tracksuit or like black like shorts and t-shirt, and they just let me do it. I don't know why. I don't know. I think they just thought I was like my own idiosyncratic person, and they just like let me get away with it. But yeah, so you wear white and you have some kind of name. I forgot what it is. But then you can like go a step further, and they call it like sannyas, which is supposed to be being like a monk. And you wear orange, and you get like a special Indian name. I think even some of the white people like they get a name, and they get a like a mantra that they gotta meditate on and stuff. So stupid. Um, but yeah, you get some gay Indian name, and like these rules and stuff you have to follow. But you're not a real sannyasin. A real sannyasin is like kind of like a Buddhist monk back in the day, but kind of more the, I guess, Hindu or like yoga version, which is like you're supposed to give up all property, like live in the wilderness, not, you're not supposed to have sex, all this type of stuff, like a full on monk or a full on like renunciant, like a person who's renounced everything, who's renounced the world. That's what an actual sannyasin is, but this is like a fake like LARPing kind of sannyasin. They're LARPing, like live action role playing, like pretending to be a real yogi and pretending to be like a real sannyasin. And then there's a level above that, which is like a full bore sannyasin, but I don't think it really makes any difference. It's all just kind of fake shit. You wear a robe, you wear some beads, and that's it. You have a funny name. That's it. You feel special. So another odd thing happened when I was there, and this was very early on. Um, I had been from having this kind of anxiety and these intrusive thoughts, this kind of cloud of thoughts, which kind of controlled me or like made me feel all weird and detached. And from by this time, I'd started reading Eckhart Tolle and kind of starting to try to be more present and stuff. I had kind of figured out this thing of like in like yogic philosophy and different stuff like that, you have this idea of detached witnessing or like being the witness, and there's different ways they put it. Being the observer, watching your mind. And just from having all those mental issues going on, I already, like, the whole time I felt this sense of being like the detached witness of what was going on. Like, I could see my body going and doing things. I could hear my voice like talking. I had all these thoughts, but they were all chaotic and uncontrollable, and they didn't feel like they were me. It was like something apart from me. And I felt like I was the one like witnessing this, watching this going on. But at my worst of being like mentally ill, like this didn't feel like a good thing at all. It was like I was trapped. It was like I was trapped and I couldn't access my body and mind to control it properly. And I had all this like really intense feeling of like anxiety and dread and horror, because it was like I was trapped out of the organism that I actually was, and I couldn't fix anything and couldn't control anything, and all these intrusive thoughts and stuff were like controlling me. It was so fucking psychotic. But as things started to calm down, I still felt like a lot of that stuff to a degree, but it was to a much lesser degree. And I started feeling like I started dividing the sense of detached witnessing, like the sense of detached awareness. I started to see it as a different thing to all the bad symptoms, like all the anxiety and intrusive thoughts and stuff. It seemed to be like a separate thing, and it seemed to kind of maybe not necessarily be a negative thing. And when I started learning about like Eckhart Tolle and like presence and mindfulness and stuff, it started to make sense to me, this idea of being the detached observer. And this idea that you are not your thoughts, you are the awareness that witnesses your thoughts. All that stuff that they say seemed to really make sense to me. And by this time, I'd already read Eckhart Tolle and a few things like that properly. And I started to understand this idea that I'd remembered from just flicking through Eckhart Tolle a long time before that. This idea of noticing the gaps between your thoughts. And it's kind of like you can just kind of sit back in a detached way and observe your thoughts as they go by. And you are not your thoughts themselves. Like, the voice in your head is not actually you. And if you just keep watching your mind like that and being the awareness that is aware of your mind, as opposed to just being caught up in the thoughts, your mind starts to calm down. And you do get these gaps where there's just like a calm awareness with no thoughts. Or you have these times where you're just calmly observing the thoughts and they start to calm down and stuff like that. So all that stuff like really made a huge amount of sense to me, because this sense of detached watching or detached witnessing, it had already started happening to me like in a pretty big way, but by accident when it was all bound up with the all the mental illness kind of symptoms. So it already made a lot of sense to me, but then as I progressed with this kind of stuff and learned more about this kind of stuff, the detached awareness kind of part stayed, but some of the kind of like anxiety and mental struggle kind of symptoms started to calm down, if that makes sense. But there was this kind of supposedly wise guy who was like one of the kind of leaders of this yoga ashram place, and he was giving a talk about this kind of stuff. And he was talking about, some shit about related to this, about being the detached observer and stuff like that. And for some reason, he must have asked me a question or like got me to talk or something. And yeah, he asked me some question about this, and I kind of mentioned like, being sick or being ill. And I was like, yeah, I've understood this kind of thing from sickness, from being ill. Like, to me, it seems like uh I don't feel like I am myself. I am the one who's watching, or some shit like that. And I was just being honest. I was just describing my experience. And it was this big talk, like in front of, everyone who was there. And he was kind of like, yes. He goes, actually, I feel like I want to clap. And he started clapping. And then, like, everyone was clapping to my answer. And I was like, okay. It's kind of unwanted attention. But the way that these people were, they were very silly people. Just that one moment, like, formed their whole opinion of me. And from then on, and this was very early after I got there, everyone started thinking of me as this kind of like wise, spiritually advanced, serious person, just based on this one random moment or something. And I'm not saying they 100% thought of me like that, but they did kind of get that idea. Like, that idea got ingrained in a lot of people's brains, and like no amount of contradictory evidence seemed to ever shake that. So that's what those people were like. They weren't like critically thinking folk. Some of them were very nice, but a lot of them were kind of silly people in a way. And I feel like that story demonstrates it. But that perception was very useful for me because I could be all quiet and silent and mysterious and hide the fact that I wasn't really into all this stuff with this yoga tradition, and I was really wanting to meditate a lot and practice yoga and stuff, but in large part, this was just like a good place for me to stay, and I was staying there for free and all that. But yeah, in general, it was really great just learning about yoga and meditation and uh, mindfulness and like related philosophies and stuff, and practicing a lot of yoga and practicing a lot of meditation. It was really, really great. And I can't remember the exact trajectory, but I do feel like my general anxiety and kind of mental illness level was slowly going down and down, like over the years as I came back from overseas. And in this year, doing the meditation and all that, I do feel it really did like go down quite a bit. And like even just over the time I was there, my mind did calm down quite a bit. And comparing, from when I first got there to when I left, yeah, it had definitely made like a noticeable difference. So, yeah, I got really, really into it, and I practice, yeah, yoga every day. Pretty much every day we would do something called yoga nidra, which is a practice where you lie down and you listen to like a recording or someone giving like a guided meditation, and you sometimes go in and out of sleep, but it's supposed to deeply relax you, and it definitely does something. And practicing meditation, I would practice the meditation I was supposed to do just for the course, and then I do more on my own as well. And I meditated a lot, and I learned a lot about my mind and my mental processes, and I learned how to watch my mind and be the detached witness. And I learned this whole like general thing of like, you are not your thoughts, you are not your mind, you are the awareness that watches it. And this helped me a lot. And I got really into that kind of general idea. And I really liked learning all the kind of philosophies related to it. So at the same time as I was doing this course and learning the stuff they were teaching me, I was doing my own kind of reading and research and running my own experiments because I really was on an inner quest to heal myself from all these mental struggles and really figure out my mind and myself and everything, but also figure out life, like figure out my philosophy, like figure out all the big questions of life and all that. I was really on this like, yeah, inner journey type thing. And I had deconverted from Christianity, and I had to figure everything out for myself, like what was really true. Like now I had to actually figure it out. So one of the first things that impressed me a lot was Eckhart Tolle, like I've been saying. And that's where I learned about the general concept of like being in the now, being in the present, and learning to practice mindfulness or practice presence. And I won't go into detail about the whole theory and practice of it right now, but I'll talk about it more at other times. But he has these things called like portals into the now. So it's like if you focus on your breathing or you focus on the sensations within your body, or you focus on the sounds you can hear, and also like the silences, like you hear the sounds that are around you, and then you hear like kind of like the silence underneath. Or if you watch your thoughts, you just watch your thoughts operating, and you start becoming detached from them, and you watch them as they calm down. These are different ways to enter the now and become present. And for me, like becoming present was the way out of anxiety. And watching my mind and like practicing presence or whatever you want to call it, that was my way of calming my mind down and like getting to understand it and becoming aware of it, and getting it to finally like simmer down and stop being so chaotic. And it really worked. It really worked. It was really great. Um, but then one thing I was really wondering about with Eckhart Tolle is like, okay, there are these portals into the now, and you can be the one who is watching your thoughts, or you can be the one who is watching your breath, or being aware of the sensations in your body, or whatever. But who actually is that? Like, who is this person, or whatever it is, who is doing the watching or doing the witnessing? Like, who is that? Is it a person? What is it? And I was wondering, like, what is the end state that you're actually trying to get to? Like, say, for example, if you're walking around being aware of your breath, and by the way, Eckhart Tolle, he's not really talking about sitting and doing meditation in a sitting posture and then getting up and going around about your day and forgetting about it. He's talking about being present during daily life. So, you'd be watching your mind as you go about your daily business, or watching your breath as you go about your daily life. And I started to think, as great as that is, what's the end point you're trying to get to? Like, are you trying to get to a point where you're just super aware of your breath all the time? If you choose watching your breath as your portal into the now, is that really what someone wants, to be super, super aware of their breath? Like, it doesn't really seem like that's the ultimate thing you're looking for. Or even if you're aware of the sensations in your body, like, is that really what you want? Like, to be super, super aware of all the sensations in your body? What are you trying to really get to? And who is this you who is aware of these sensations, or aware of the breath, or whatever? So I was thinking about this really seriously, and kind of like trying to practice it and trying to piece it together. And I can't remember which came first, the books or my own realization, but I figured out, what you're really trying to do is be aware of awareness itself. And the only you that there is awareness. And like the ultimate state you're trying to get to is kind of like a sense of presence, but a sense of detachment from everything. and a real like experience of just being aware of awareness, like being aware of yourself, which is awareness. It's kind of hard to explain, and I'll talk about this kind of stuff more at length in other episodes. But I figured out, like, yeah, I'm pretty sure the ultimate thing you want is to be profoundly aware of awareness itself, and that is kind of like being yourself in a way, in a weird way. And I came across a few other books, so I'd already read Eckhart Tolle's 2 books, and I really liked them, but they didn't seem to quite go the whole way with this kind of stuff. It's kind of like he stops short. I read another book called the Zen Teachings of Huang Po. I think that's how you say it. And I really liked that one as well. Even though I didn't like most other Zen-related things that I read, only that book. And I read a book called Be As You Are by Ramana Maharshi. It's not really by him, but, people collected his talks and stuff. And my ultimate favorite book that I finally found is called I Am That by Nisargadatta Maharaj. And that's the same kind of deal. He didn't write the book. It's like recordings of his talks. And I read those books over and over again and like studied them and broke them down. And basically, yeah, they were saying what I just said. It's like, be aware of the sense I am, or be aware of awareness itself. And don't just sit down and do a meditation on it and then get up and forget about it. It's like a constant meditative practice. Always try to have yourself in mind. Always try to keep a portion of your attention to focus on awareness itself, no matter what's going on. And you start altering your mind and your perception, and your mind calms down. You're not caught up in your thoughts anymore. You're not identified with the voice in your head. You have this like profound sense of like just being awareness itself. And your body just goes around doing normal things. You're totally able to do all the normal things, but there's less of a sense of involvement. There's more of this sense of like detached watching, detached witnessing. You really feel like you are the awareness in the background. It's so fucking surreal, but it's real and it works. And for me, as I started to practice this more and more, like my mind was calming down. I was finally getting some of the peace and calm and serenity and like sense of control, I guess, sense of being okay that I had been looking for and I'd been missing for so long. And I never got it from any Christianity or religion shit. I got it from this. And yeah, I would spend hours and hours like, I lived in different places. Like first I lived in a dorm. At one time I lived like up in this, it's kind of like this block of different buildings where there was no one else around, and they let me live there for a while. But for a lot of the time I was up in this little hut. It was like just a little meditation hut up by myself, and you have to walk up a big, like, not a whole mountain, but up this big hill through all the trees and leaves to get there. It's all secluded. And I just lived in there. And I worked in the kitchen and I worked on the grounds and stuff. And I went to their services and did the things I needed to do. But for ages and ages, just hours and hours on end, I would just like sit in my room and just watch my mind. I just sit and try to be present. And I was just like watching my thoughts and being aware, like cultivating this awareness. And I was obsessed with it. And that's what started to calm my mind down. And like it's hard to explain, and I'll do it at length like another time. But it just made me kind of understand like so much more about life. Like I just gained this clarity, like just from dissecting my mind just by like pure attention, pure awareness. Was so crazy. And I guess that's like one of the things I'm most thankful for with everything is that I came across this general idea of like presence, mindfulness, awareness, and watching your mind. And I really feel like that kind of saved me from all the anxiety stuff. And it's just like to this day, it's just one of the best and most useful things I've learned. And yeah, I've learned more other stuff since then, and you know, I've uh I'm not as into it now as I was back then, but really when I think about it, I should be because like the best times in my life have been when I've been like super present and like focusing on that to like a really big degree. So yeah, that was probably like the central mission of being there. And that was a really good thing that I learned, and I'm like super happy and grateful about that. Um, some other interesting things happened. Another interesting thing that happened was since I was doing all this like yoga and meditation and stuff, being alone all the time, my libido pretty much like it went away to a large degree. And I didn't really think much about like girls or sex or anything. And even though, there's no rule against it or anything, I think I only masturbated like twice the entire time I was there. And I was only supposed to be there for like 10 days, but I ended up staying a year and a half. I planned to stay 2 years, but after I decided to stay, yeah, that 10-day trip turned into much, much longer. And at this actual yoga ashram, in the end, I stayed for a year and a half. And yeah, without even thinking about it, like my sex drive kind of like dampened down and turned into, I guess, a kind of meditation drive or something. And without even trying, I think I only masturbated like twice the entire time. And in large part, I just forgot about girls and sex. And there were females there, obviously, but there weren't heaps of like, really stunning girls walking around or anything. And they also had rules like about dress code, like you had to have your shoulders covered, you couldn't have any revealing clothing and stuff. And yeah, I think all that and the whole environment and everything, no phone, no computer for the most part, except when you're doing like some assignment for the course. And this seclusion and all that, like uh I rarely left the actual ashram except for the odd shopping trip I did for them. It all kind of culminated and like caused this kind of stuff. So yeah, um, there were a few little things that happened with girls, but none of them were super interesting. Um, kind of travelers would come through the ashram and stay for a short time. I'm just remembering now actually they were called woofers, which is like willing workers on organic farms or something. And they would like the ashram was obviously signed up to like woofing, or which is like a website or whatever. And yeah, these kind of more like backpacker people would come through and stay for a while. And there was this one blonde girl who seemed to really like me, and like we kind of like hung out a bit, but we never really actually did anything. Uh, but yeah, it seemed like she really like liked me and stuff. But then it was so weird. Uh, I saw her like kissing some other guy like down by the lake or something, and I was like, "What the fuck? I thought she liked me." And then she left shortly after that. But I was just like so angry. I was so mad, even though we hadn't started like a full on thing or anything. It felt like a real betrayal because she was like flirting with me and liking me and stuff. And I just felt really mad. And yeah, she got my email address and stuff like that. But then, yeah, I just never saw her again. But it made me really mad, and it made me think about all the other, like, betrayals and stuff I'd had that I've already told you about, and it's made me super mad. Then there was a girl, who I guess I'll call Lauren, and she was another, like, kinda like traveler, backpacker person who came through. And she was really nice. She was another blonde girl from France. She was like super cute, super beautiful, and she had a French accent. And she said that I reminded her heaps of her sister's boyfriend, I think it was. That was one of the first things she said to me. And it wasn't a big thing. We just like hung out a lot, and she seemed to really like me and I really liked her. Um and yeah, I never really, like, I wasn't thinking in terms of girls and stuff, and I really wasn't that keen on it, but these things just kind of like happened, and we never really did anything. But yeah, she like, when she left, she like gave we had like an emotional goodbye and stuff, and we I can't remember how we contacted each other, but we got each other's contact details and we like wrote to each other a few times. Um but then yeah, it just kind of fizzled out. Um After I left the ashram, like, I'll tell you about this stuff later, but I started to get into other things, like different things than I was into when I knew her, and I think she thought I was kind of random and like unpredictable after that, like, and it just kind of like fizzled out. But I don't know what she did after she was there. I don't know what she like moved on and did and where she went anyway. But yeah, um, but yeah, like, it was pretty cool. There was like a river kind of like near the ashram, and we used to swim in the river and go in like go kayaking and stuff. So that's pretty cool. And just her and I just like went kayaking together. It's kind of nice. But I wasn't in the mindset of like making any moves or anything. I just wasn't in that. Just wasn't keen on that. Like I said, my libido had largely gone away. Um, but there was this one time, there was this guy, woofer person, and he was like a funny kind of Mexican guy, I think, or maybe a Brazilian guy. And there was this really hot girl who was another one of these like backpacker people, and she had like the best ass, and she was, I guess she was technically following the dress code, but she used to wear like these really tight pants, and I was like, Jesus Christ, look at that ass. And he and her got together while they were there, and I just remember feeling really jealous, and I was thinking like, I'm better than him. He was kind of like, he was thin but flabby at the same time, and I was like, oh, I'm better than him. I have a nicer body than him. Like, so stupid jealous thoughts. But it's like, yeah, but you didn't even talk to her, and he did. He's all funny and nice, and you're just all serious and like this serious loner. So obviously she's gonna like him and not you. You didn't even try. So it didn't make sense. It's just a random memory. Um, but yeah, and there was this other funny time. There was another resident of like the ashram, and it was like this girl who was like probably around my age, and she was a German girl, and she wasn't like super attractive. She was a bit weird, and she had one dead tooth. I remember one of her front teeth was gray. But there wasn't that many girls there, and like, she was like decent enough looking. But we started kind of hanging out at some point, but I didn't think of it as like a man woman thing at all. Like, I was really in monk mode, and I just didn't think of it in those terms at all. And I remember we like hung out and we went for like drives and stuff and like just hung out, her and me. But then one time, she like we went out all day because sometimes you have a day off. Like often you have duties and stuff to do, but then sometimes you have just a whole day off. And we went out all day and can't remember what we did, but we were just driving around and doing various things. And then she invited me back to her room and she wanted to show me some movie. And we were sitting there in her room, like watching this movie, and she was like, and there was no alcohol or anything like in the ashram, but she was like, "Oh, do you want some chocolate?" And I was like, "Ah, no, no, I'm okay." And she ate like some pieces of dark chocolate and stuff, and we're just like watching this movie. Some people had laptops. I didn't have one though. Yeah, like kind of leaning against her bed. And I just watched the movie. And then after the movie, I like made some comments about like philosophical comments about like the movie. And then I was like, oh, it was really nice spending the day with you. Good night. And then I just fucking left. Bro, that's a fuck. You're supposed to fuck her. Like, if that's not a fuck, I don't know what is. Ah, it's so stupid. I was just so oblivious. I was oblivious, but I was not keen at the same time. Like, I didn't care. Like, I wasn't like a horny teenager who would see that as like a missed opportunity or something. I just didn't care. Like, I wasn't addicted to pussy yet, like most people are. Um, yeah, I was just oblivious on one hand, but I didn't care on the other hand. It was so crazy. It's so crazy to me now, but I didn't even realize until years later, I'm pretty sure, that that was a fuck. And I didn't make a move and actually complete the fuck. And after that, yeah, she stopped. I mean, we remained friendly and everything, but she stopped hanging out with me, just me and her. And I was like, that's weird. That's weird, eh? Like, you don't understand that, really? And yeah, I was just so fucking cooked in the head. Yeah. But then there was one other girl who was really, really cute. This cute brunette girl. She was another kind of traveler who came through, but she did stay for quite a while. And she was really into like meditation and like spiritual kind of stuff. And I actually, yeah, I hung out with her quite a bit, but I'm not sure if she really liked me like that. You know, there weren't any clear signs, but I kind of was like chasing her around a bit and trying to like hang out with her and stuff. And I did actually invite her up to my room one time, but she said, "Oh no, I'm not ready for something like that." But I try to make it seem like I was like, "Why are you scared?" Like, cause it's like dark up there or something. Cause my room was like up a hill, kind of in the dark. But yeah, she wasn't keen. So that was my horniest moment when that girl was there. But like, I remember that's like one time out of a year and a half. For most of the time, I was just like celibate and like not even thinking about it. Uh, and really with no effort. And they have this concept in yoga called brahmacharya, which basically means you stay abstinent and all the time and energy and whatnot you save from not being obsessed with sex and relationships, you put it into meditation and like yogic practice and stuff. And I really liked that idea and I started to subscribe to it to a certain degree. But yeah, there was a few more things that are interesting enough that happened in the yoga center that I'll tell you about. But this episode's starting to run pretty long, so next time I'll finish telling you about this. And where I ended up going after this was actually a Buddhist monastery, and I stayed there for quite some time too. And I did even more meditation than I did in the yoga ashram. And after I left there, I had some other various adventures too. So I'll tell you about some of that. But yeah, so this was an odd time. Like at the start, I still had quite a bit of the anxiety, but during this time, it did start to fade, and I learned some really useful stuff and developed in some useful ways. And it was good. I did make some headway with it, and it was kind of silly in a lot of ways, but it was good in a lot of ways too. And thinking back, that was actually a pretty positive time in a lot of ways. And yeah, there are actually some decent memories from then. So yeah, I'll leave it there for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you maybe got something out of it. I don't know if you really learned anything. Maybe you did. But yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks heaps for listening. And I'll talk to you again next time.